How to build an SEO strategy for AI overviews. Hello and welcome to the May 2025 edition of the Majestic SEO panel, where we're discussing how to build an SEO strategy for AI overviews. I'm your host, David Bain. Joining me are four great guests, so let's meet them. Let us start off with Dave.
Hi there, yeah, so I'm Dave from Dave the SEO & Co. And I mainly do fractional SEO work and work as a SEO consultant, particularly around strategy.
Thanks for joining, Dave. And also with us today is Sean.
Hi all. Yes, I'm the SEO manager at Macmillan Cancer Support, and also I run a channel all around SEO and AI called Search with Sean.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining as well, Sean. And also with us today is Victoria.
Hi, my name is Victoria, and I'm a consultant, and I mostly specialize in fintech and Web3 crypto industries.
Thank you, Victoria. And the last one joining us today is Vivek.
Hi, I'm Vivek, and like Victoria, I mostly specialize in fintech. I am a content marketing consultant for B2B fintech companies, and glad to be here.
Thank you, Vivek. So let's start with Victoria for the first topic, the first question. Victoria, what are AI overviews?
I think that the easiest way to explain this, David, is the evolution of feature snippets, right? It's a rich result within the Google search engine page that occupies the top space. And well, before with feature snippets, you had only one source.
Victoria, you appear to be muted. Did you mute yourself?
No.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Sorry, if you can go back a sentence, that'd be great. Let's go for that.
Okay, yeah. So sorry about that. I was saying that for me, the easiest way to explain AI overviews is like the evolution of feature snippets, which is a rich result on the top of the Google page that contains an answer to a question, to an so it generally shows up on informational queries. And the main difference between with feature snippets is that feature snippets used to have only one answer, like one source, and the AI overviews can have several sources to create this AI answer that is served.
Okay, so great overview there. Thanks for providing that there as well. So where are AI overviews most likely to show? Dave, would you like to tackle that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So AI overviews are showing pretty much above everything, and they are showing, but they're most often showing on searches where people have an intent that's around problem solving, or where they're asking very specific questions, at least for the time being. There's a white paper that I published back at the beginning of the year where we looked at kind of sub intent types, and it very much was those where we're most often seeing AI overviews, and some areas such as kind of more general topic research, they're showing up less so far, though of course that might change. And recently we started seeing Google testing product cards and place cards, so the type of searches where they're going to show, that's going to keep on expanding, I think.
Okay, great. So Dave, if you did want to refer to that white paper, feel free to get it up on screen, and we can share that. If people were obviously watching the video form, a lot of people listen to this in audio form, so if we're doing that, then we'll describe it as well. Sean, what type of business is this most suitable for?
Yeah, and I'll just touch on as well. I think it's also a good point about the evolution. I think it's also the evolution of user behavior, as we've seen with user behaviors, people have got less patience. They want answers quickly. They want to get straight to the point. And this is kind of like an evolution of that. So in terms of like, what businesses this is affecting, obviously talking from my standpoint with Macmillan, health is probably the biggest industry being hit by AI overviews in terms of being featured with AI overviews. So, and like Dave touched upon, a lot of them informational, and like you said, it's touching upon all sectors really. But yeah, obviously SEMrush just released some information in the last few days around the industries being most featured in AI overviews, and it is like health, law, government, these sort of industries look like it's the ones being seen the most on AI overviews.
And Vivek, how would you summarize the state of AI overviews at the moment?
I would say it's evolving. I mean, it seems like it's been around for over a year now, almost, or many years now, but really, I think at this point, we don't know as much as we think we do. We do know that, as Victoria said, they are an evolution of the snippets, and a lot of informational queries are being highlighted over there. But the broader repercussions, I think we're still grasping with it. For example, there still is a trade-off between losing that search real estate on top of the search engine results page versus having your brand show up in one of these AI overviews on top. So while, I'm seeing a lot of publishers complain about the fact that, okay, we're losing clicks, so AI overviews are bad. But at the same time, if your brand shows up right on top of the Google, search result page, is that really a bad thing for your brand? So there's a lot of debates going on, and I think, there's no doubt that the AI overviews are not going to go away. It's the real evolution is just around how we react to it and how we sort of think about it in terms of broader SEO as well. Should we be measuring clicks? Should we be looking at impressions? I think that's where the really interesting discussions are happening, and that will dictate how our attitude to AI overviews evolves. So, yeah.
So hello to Martin watching us live on LinkedIn. We're broadcasting live on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. And of course, the podcast is available afterwards as well. But if you're watching us live, if you've got any questions in relation to this topic, AI overviews, please share them in the discussion and we'll try and feature them as part of what we're talking about here. How do you actually realize that it is definitely worthwhile forming some sort of strategy to try and optimize your content, your site, your brand to appear in AI overviews? Because I guess it's not suitable for every type of business. Dave, shall we start off with you on that one? How do you know if a business is suitable for optimizing for AI overviews?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a lot of the people who are panicking most about AI overviews are people who are just publishers who have businesses set up as affiliate businesses where they're not actually selling a physical product or a service at the end of the day. And really, they rely on getting traffic onto the website. And so brand awareness just isn't valuable for them. And being within those AI overviews isn't valuable for them. So if you're actually selling a product or service, there is an opportunity to market your brand and to market the products and build brand awareness and also awareness of your offering within the AI overviews, I think. But it's understanding then which industries are showing up most, where where AI overviews are showing up within the process. I think if you've got a more complex product, then you're going to be more likely to see AI overviews showing up at different points in the research journey. So there's kind of higher funnel searches where people are trying to solve a kind of more complex problem. AI overview suits itself to that.
Victoria, would you say there's a certain type of business that's more suitable for optimizing for AI overviews?
Well, first of all, if you have had a website for a couple of years, you already have content that is ranking somewhere. So you might optimize it, right? At the moment, I'm seeing a client, for example, that had like 70 feature snippets in the past, now ranking for 9 AI overviews. Because this is in the crypto compliance sector, which is quite complex. You're not going to get everything that there is to know from one AI answer. I think that that sector is not as exposed as something more mainstream or B2C.
Okay. Sean, what are your thoughts on different sectors?
Yeah, I agree what's been said. I think it's also like if you're scoping out opportunities, obviously you usually know what your top products or services are. But obviously you can go on tools like SEMrush that have, they now display what ones have AI overviews, what ones don't. and also, you know, to put a business case together, there's like advanced web ranking report on pixel width. So, you know, if you're building a case, you know what your top pages and products usually are. But you see that things are dipping in terms of like traffic or, you know, click-through rates and so on, then go and explore, do the discovery on those. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, like Dave said and Victoria, you know, a lot of them are informational based at the moment, AI overviews. So, but I think, as we all said, it's going to keep growing and touch upon everything soon. So, but I think the discovery side and so not panicking when traffic drops and seeing why that might be the case, see where the opportunity is. That's where that's what I suggest.
And Vivek, what are your thoughts on the type of business that should be trying to optimize for AI overviews?
I don't think of this in terms of a type of business, you know, because I don't think there is a way to optimize for AI overviews. So it's basically you just have to follow good SEO principles. That's always been the case. You need to have good content, and you can't control, you know, whether you're going to show up in AI overviews. So I think the real question is, you know, if you want to show up in these AI overviews, what should you be doing? Which is follow good SEO principles. And, you know, any business that benefits from showing up in Google, no matter what kind of product or service you're selling, if you benefit from showing up on Google, which is almost every business on the planet, you will benefit by showing up in an AI overview. So I think it applies to pretty much every business with a product and service out there. As Dave said, you know, a publisher that's depending on affiliate income, I think they'll be the hardest hit. But if you have a physical product or a service you're selling, it's definitely a good thing to keep an eye on.
Okay, great. Sorry, your audio was just dipping in and out a little bit there, Vivek. We tried to enhance it a little bit beforehand. I'm not sure if it's possible to maybe take one of your earphones out, the one with the microphone on it, and perhaps just hold it in front of your mouth, just to try and get that not to drop out there. But we'll try and improve that slightly there. But Dave, so Vivek was saying there that it's not really necessarily possible just to focus on optimizing for AI overviews, and that it's just great SEO that will end up resulting in your brand being featured there. Is that something that you'd agree with?
I think that you have to have great SEO, and a lot of the principles are the same, but there are a few things you can specifically do to optimize for AI overviews. Some of the things that work very well for featured snippets, and from the kind of data I've looked at, actually, if you had a featured snippet before, that greatly increases the chance that you are going to have some visibility in AI overviews now. But it's also thinking about what type of visibility do you want to have in AI overviews? Do you just want to be a source, or can you actually find ways to force your brand in as an answer? And I think that's something that some brands are doing very well and some brands are missing. You know, for example, I've seen a search for best holidays for water sports, where the AI overview is listing out some locations, but it actually mentions specific brands like Club Med and Le Boat as options, and that's hugely valuable. So there's really an opportunity there to do that, but you have to set up things like passages in the right way so that they lend themselves to be taken.
And
another
sorry,
thing I've seen recently is
what would setting them up in the right way look like, Dave?
Sure. So it's signposting as much as possible for Google. So this is similar tactics to for featured snippets. So having clear headings, having jump to links that take people to the right part of the page, have nice succinct answers that stand on their own. And surprisingly, Google a lot of the time doesn't actually reword what you've written that much. It might change a few words here and there, but I've seen lots of examples where they take a quote, put it in AI overviews, almost verbatim. And in some cases now, actually, they will take an exact quote and then they'll just put afterwards. I think this is an experiment at the moment, but they'll put afterwards says such and such a brand with a link within the section. So I can see Cheryl's just asking, what are our passages? So that's basically the idea of optimizing a specific passage of text within a piece of content for a specific keyword or for question terms particularly. and optimizing them in such a way that they can stand on their own. By using jump to links, also, it means Google can link directly to that part of the page. But it also works great as signposting for feature snippets and AI overviews.
And I was interested in the phrase you used earlier on there, Dave, by saying force your brand in as an answer. How do you determine that there's an opportunity to do that and there's an opportunity to perhaps appear with existing brands if you're not already?
Yeah, so obviously, if you come across something where there is already brands kind of being listed as an answer, then that's clearly an opportunity. And if they are kind of terms that are at the point in the funnel where people are doing research, and actually it's going to be a useful answer to them to get a list of brands or of specific products or services, which might answer what their query is. As I said, a lot of AIO times when AI overviews show up is for problem solving kind of intent terms. And it might be that you have exactly the product or service that solves that problem. And if you can find those terms where it's a good answer and it's a good user experience, then I think that's where you have the opportunity. Because at the end of the day, Google's always looking to give people a good user experience, and they will look at stats on how people are interacting with the pages. And if they put you in as a result, and that seems to actually improve the quality of results for people, they'll keep on showing you.
And Sean, what are your thoughts on the type of content that you need to have on your website to give you that increased likelihood of ranking within an AI overview?
Yeah, I mean, Dave hit the nail on the head quite a few times. It's really good, but I do believe, I said it in my recent Majestic video, went live today, very similar on that. It is typical, traditional SEO tactics, but it's just underlining them further and really hitting home that they are very important. Like Dave touched upon, the structure of the content is even more important than ever. Those headers, clear, the content gets to the point. Things I love talking about, like information gain and information density. Those two factors are so important. If you're talking about a certain content topic, then what are you adding to the story that no one else is adding? What unique piece of information are you giving on that topic that no one else can spit out? And how are you doing it in a condensed sentence or piece of content, and without adding jargon and all that stuff. So for example, I've created a custom GPT focus around information gain, information density, and natural language processing against our branding guidelines, how we like to write things, and it kind of rewrites stuff to get an idea of that. So that's the kind of stuff. And also touch upon structured data schema. I know there's controversy, how much effect does it have, blah blah blah, but it's the philosophy, it's a mindset, structuring your content, understanding the entities it touches upon, and that kind of thing. And then finally, like UX, making sure it actually, when you put together a good piece of content, it works well for the user, as Dave's touched upon. Internal linking, jump into sections, etc. So, yeah.
Sean, you talked about adding your own perspective for an answer, perhaps something that's a little bit unique that doesn't exist already. Does that mean that if answers exist in AI overviews already, you may be more likely to add your brand to the conversation by perhaps disagreeing with what's there already?
I don't know about disagreeing, but obviously if you do build a brand reputation, if you do become a brand that people listen to, and you've got experts that can contribute to the content, or you can put in statistics or facts, data around the topic, or, you can build assets around it, then obviously that's going to give you a much bigger chance of kind of, as Dave said, get yourself in the picture. But brand reputation also, I'm sure we'll touch upon, but that's a huge part of this whole thing as well.
Victoria, so a lot of traditional SEO is about identifying the right keyword phrase and creating content based upon that. Is it the same type of keyword research that we need to do in order to actually determine where the opportunities lie within AI overviews, or what other ways can we actually identify where the key opportunities are to optimize for?
Well, Dave was saying right now that problem-solving keywords had a lot of potential to be on AI overview. So knowing that informational and problem-solving keywords are the ones that are more likely to jump on a discovery section, probably is the top of the funnel. The top of the funnel keywords, the simpler keywords, the keywords that are for people that are starting their journey, the ones that are going to be more likely to show up on AI overviews.
So you mentioned problem-solving keyword phrases. How do you identify what is a problem-solving keyword phrase? Is it about doing keyword research the traditional way and then just manually going through them just to see if you think that there are problems, or do you use AI to actually help categorize the keywords into problem-solving keywords?
Yeah, you could do that. Also, all of them, well, SEMrush and Ahrefs, both of them have a way to filter questions, right? And I think that's the most informational layer you can go, right? When people are phrasing something like, what is an AI overview? I don't think there's anything more informational than that. Or how do I open a bank account? The basic questions for, let's say, newbies are probably the most likely to be that we can optimize for AI overviews.
So we've
Also,
heard
can I
a few
just-
tools. Yeah, go for it, Sean.
No, I was going to say, that's a good point on Google Search Console. Obviously, you can filter it by questions as well. And what's really good is like Ahrefs has their new sort of user intent. So when you can look at a certain query and look at, it tells you the kind of user intent behind those queries. So it gives you a really good understanding of what people are actually expecting to see when they're typing in that query on the search engine. So, all these tools sort of help you along the way.
I think another thing you can try and understand is to what extent are people willing to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole. And if people are willing to go down a rabbit hole, that increases the chance that, not only are you going to get an impression within AI overviews, that people are going to click on your result. And if you can optimize your content, so firstly get in the AI overview, but then have a title when the link shows of something that's a little bit clickbaity, there's another opportunity there to actually get that traffic and actually turn that into traffic onto your site.
So Cheryl was saying, wondering how the keyword research tools are going to help and change in the future. She mentioned SEMrush, Moz, Screaming Frog, and the like. Obviously, SEMrush and Ahrefs and Google Search Console have been mentioned as tools in the past. Maybe we can get everyone's opinion on what is the most progressive tool in terms of offering the functionality that will give you the information required in order to optimize an AI overview at the moment, and why you prefer that particular tool. Vivek, what tool do you like to use for identifying and perhaps optimizing for AI overviews at the moment?
I prefer SEMrush. I have used Ahrefs quite a lot, but I find that it's pretty good for backlinks. But to be honest, there's not much to choose between Ahrefs and SEMrush. I think if you're a business, you're kind of starting out, you want to choose the best tool. I think it's a choice between Ahrefs and SEMrush.
Okay. And Sean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'd say Google Search Console is always a classic, and you can't go wrong with that. But obviously, SEMrush is doing some great stuff. They were one of the first to kind of focus on AI overviews, and that's developed. And one I've mentioned before is Advanced Web Ranking. They're moving very quickly, developing very quickly, and it's some really great stuff on there that other people aren't really addressing that much. So yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, and Google Search Console. So what specifically are you looking for in there? I mean, are you tracking AI overviews, or are you identifying new opportunities?
Yeah, like I say, with the search features, Google aren't giving us much, and they stated as much they're not going to give us anything more. But obviously, like I say, you can filter out based on questions. You can break it down to page level, things like that, seeing what questions and queries people are putting in, and how that's changing over time. Obviously, there are some limitations, but and obviously you can look at page performance and query performance. So yeah, it's just a good tool, isn't it? And it's free. So
It's free. There we go. That helps. And Victoria, what tool are you actively using at the moment for this?
So I'm using the new, well, SEMrush has a search feature option. Well, it has a search feature for a very long time now. Now they have added recently AI overviews, and Href has added as well. So I prefer to use Href for backlinks and keyword research, and SEMrush for everything else. And I think that the report for AI overviews is much more visual, and I prefer that interface. So I'm using both.
And Dave, what tool do you prefer to use?
I mean, I mainly use Ahrefs, but I think the most important thing is to use tools where you can do that SERPs analysis. The white paper I mentioned, I did in partnership with Authoritas, who I think were a bit ahead of the curve in terms of being able to analyze AI overviews and the depth that they were able to analyze AI overviews. So with that, you're able to see AI overviews where your competitors were showing, for example, and that's been there for a while, and other tools I think are just catching up. And so that's a great tool. If you can see that your competitors who have similar sites covering a similar topic, have a similar offering, are showing up for certain keywords, and there are AI overviews, then that's a great opportunity to look into further and see if you should be there as well.
So it's one thing taking data, taking information from these tools for our own analysis and strategy that we build for optimizing for AI overviews. But what about for reporting back to clients? If we're maybe agency side, what are clients looking for? What kind of questions are they asking about AI overviews? And what kind of metrics are key for them when they're determining whether or not the strategy is a success? Just looking for nods there to see who to ask first in that one there, and just looking at blank stares. Sean, okay, let's go for you.
I think this is actually the most important thing, really, because I think I know I'm getting tons of emails from different stakeholders about this. I'm sure everyone else is, but there is a kind of old school way of still looking at traffic and can be really concerned when numbers are falling year on year or whatever. And I'm sure most of our figures in some areas are falling year on year, but it's like an educational piece around changing the focus on metrics, from traffic and things like that to more visibility on the SERP, those SERP features, AI views, share of search, share of voice. These are the things that we need to be looking at now. Like traffic, everyone's traffic is going to fall because people are trying to answer things right on the SERP, now, or on the large language model result. And, websites are going to get hit across the board. So that's what I would say, focus on those kind of metrics.
Everyone's traffic is going to fall. There's the doomsayer. That's
it's not bad. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way the world's going,
There is a behavioral change, as you mentioned, Sean. And well, I don't think that Google is the most useful platform anymore.
What is the most useful platform?
For me, is ChatGPT by far.
And do you have any clients that are saying the same thing?
About that ChatGPT is the most useful platform?
Your most useful platform in terms of potentially even traffic to their business.
So I'm tracking traffic from LLMs with Looker Studio. I know that there are specialized solutions that track dimensions, because it's funny that people are very concerned about not having enough clicks, but if they show on ChatGPT, they're happy. When they're looking best, I don't know, best category, best player in category, and they show up on ChatGPT, they're happy. Now, if they show up on AI overviews and that doesn't lead to a click, they're not. But it's the same thing. You are showing up on search result. You are showing up as the most relevant result wherever this search is being done, right?
Yeah,
so,
I think it's about reframing.
Reframing data.
Yeah, I think from what Victoria's saying, it's very much that AI overviews is still seen as SEO, and optimizing for ChatGPT and others is seen as a whole different activity. So we need to reframe AIOs as, we know it's still SEO, but actually as a different thing. And then the ways of measuring that are different. And I think if we can go back to understanding for the businesses we're working with, what their business strategy is, what their marketing strategy is, and spot where actually optimizing for AIOs can help them meet those objectives, then we can kind of work from there to actually get that buy-in and actually maybe change also the metrics we're measuring, because it's not necessarily going to be clicks to the site, but is there a way of measuring things like footfall? Is it people searching for the brand later on, and all these other things that we need to maybe start talking about as new metrics.
Cheryl saying in the LinkedIn Live, how do you show up on ChatGPT? Dave, is the process quite similar in terms of optimizing for ChatGPT versus optimizing for AI overviews?
Yeah, again, the signposting part is very important. Sean mentioned structured data earlier, and I think for things like ChatGPT, that's even more important to help them understand the different entities and the relevance and context of the content as well.
Back in the day when I was a search manager in a big agency, visibility was becoming a big thing in the SERP, and you could say to clients, yes, you're X% visible in terms of this keyword phrase versus your competitors. And it feels like we're going back to brand visibility as a key metric within overviews and perhaps ChatGPT as well. Is that a key metric that you tend to be using, or are there better metrics to be sharing with clients?
I think not so much brand visibility, but if you have an increase in brand searches and an increase in direct traffic to your website, then I think this has been the case for a long time, but it's maybe even more important now, then SEO should be getting at least some of the credit for that. If we've been increasing brand visibility within AIOs and leading to that increased brand awareness and leading to then people potentially coming straight to us. And even things like click-through rate on paid ads, when people get to that moment where they've done their research and they're ready to buy something, potentially get a higher click-through rate on your paid ads because people have seen your brand mentioned in AIOs, referenced by Google, which is maybe seen as a sign of approval as well. And so that's got a value, and we've got to find a better way of linking that visibility to those end results.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge with organic historically versus paid has been justifying the value of something that's perhaps not easily definable, such as increased brand awareness, because if it results in perhaps another marketing channel such as pay-per-click as the last click that the user uses, then it's easy for the stakeholder to just focus on the last click, certainly. So the mention of that word, stakeholders, obviously makes me think of them. So how do we sell the value of AI overviews to stakeholders within a business?
I think, one way is to, look at,
to be honest.
Oh, sorry, after you.
Sorry, Dave. Go ahead. I'm just saying, personally, I haven't had to sell anything. I've been getting questions from clients almost every day in terms of how do we show up on LLMs, what are we doing to optimize for LLMs, etc. I think everybody's pretty aware of, as Victoria said before, of how people are moving away from Google. So there isn't much to sell there. I think it's more about the reporting, and I think tracking conversions is pretty important. A big problem with SEO has always been we're too wedded to clicks. Instead, we need to sort of move that conversation towards conversions. So you essentially build a funnel. You draw a line between, okay, this traffic is coming in from whatever LLM. It could be the Gemini or the Google overview. It could be whatever, GPT, Perplexity, whatever. And this is what's converting. So I think once you move the conversation that way, that's when stakeholders start seeing the ROI, and it becomes a much easier still in terms of saying that, okay, the basic SEO stuff that we've been doing is working, and here's proof. So I think that's how you go about it.
Yeah, I'll
Maybe
just
you're gonna
say
answer that
quickly,
one as
like,
well.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say 100% agree with that. I think that's where I left off. It's like the conversion point is the you know, you could have 100 people walk into your shop and 2 people buy something, and that's like, okay. Or you can have 50 people walk in your shop, better quality traffic, and more people buy stuff. You know, it's about the quality of traffic. It's about how you use, you know, they interact with your website and engage. But obviously that throws up another curveball. Are you tracking the right things using like Google Analytics? Is your Google Analytics set up correctly? Are you, you know, tracking conversions correctly and that kind of thing? Is definitely, you know, that's a good point. Yeah.
I like that analogy as well. 50 people walk into your shop, but you've got one person that wants to buy. You don't want these 50 people in your shop. They're just going to make a mess if they're not actually interested in buying.
Yeah, it's just about making the most of every user, and you know, it doesn't matter where they come from. And I think when I said it to stakeholders, they all know how important Google is. You know, if you've reported before, they know Google. I know they're losing some market share, but they are still very dominant. And people want to be at the top, you know. And if you want a billboard in like Piccadilly Circus, it's the same thing. You want to be seen at the biggest place, you know, and Google is the biggest place, so you want to be the top result, and that is at the moment AI overviews. So you know, and everything's being pushed down, as we're seeing with the pixel widths and all that kind of data. So, yeah.
Victoria, do you want to give your thoughts on? Yeah, sorry, Victoria, jump in there.
No, I was going to say that it's more of a PR approach. If you hire a PR agency, they will not measure how many conversions you had. PR agency measures how many people saw a piece of content. They try to make you thought leaders in a space, but they are kind of removed from the result, from the actual selling, from the actual conversion, from the actual revenue. You think that comes after, that if you are more trustworthy, people will buy from you eventually. It's like a longer play. So I think that both approaches could work. I mean, if you don't hold your PR agency accountable, why are you going to hold your SEO team accountable if we are talking about basically being more visible and more trustworthy?
Yeah, with Vivek, I'm afraid top review card is saying, Vivek, I can't hear you properly. There's a little bit of an issue with your microphone. We tried to just focus in on your microphone and get you clicking a couple of buttons there as well, but it does seem to be cutting in and out, unfortunately. So maybe a microphone in the bin for next time and a different one, which is a little bit of a shame. But yeah, we struggle to hear your lengthy answers there. Dave, just before we finish off, can we actually get your thoughts on the answer to Alba's questions? Alba's saying, how do you think it will affect the businesses, the fact that AI adapts information giving depending on the previous conversation with the user? So essentially, I would imagine that's just talking about the rights of AI to retain and reuse the information that perhaps a user gives or the business gives about that particular brand, and perhaps that brand being used in a slightly more negative light or unmanageable light. What are your thoughts on that in general?
Yeah, I think you know, with tools like, you know, Gemini and ChatGPT, we are losing a lot of visibility of you know, when we actually have visibility, what people are actually searching for, because, you know, everyone is going to get slightly different results, even if they do ask the same questions. But a lot of time, because people are asking more complex questions, they're going to be more unique. You know, we don't have that ability to optimize for specific keywords anymore. With AI overviews, I think we still do, but over time that might change, and we might find that people's search behavior changes due to AIOs, where people will ask very specific questions knowing they're going to get a good answer, and then there's going to be more and more traffic which we just can't link to a specific keyword and optimize for keywords in the same way. So we have to start optimizing for topics. I think with ChatGPT as well, we have to start optimizing for topics that we maybe understand that people are more likely to use those kind of tools for. And at the moment, we're just missing a bit of data really in how people are using those tools. Are they using them to find products and services? Are they using them to find local businesses? And how exactly we optimize for that. So I think that's going to be something that's going to continue to evolve, but is really a challenge for us. And again, changes how we talk about our results. If we can't talk about ranking for keywords anymore, it's much more, we can see the traffic that's coming out of ChatGPT and the like, but not exactly what the process of people getting there is going to be.
So it's nice finishing off with an actionable takeaway. So I was thinking this one should be, what's one action that SEOs need to do to better prepare for AI overviews if they're not doing something actionable at the moment? They're just carrying out day-to-day general SEO as opposed to really thinking about AI overviews. So what's one thing that SEOs need to do? Think about that particular question, and then also I'll ask everyone just to remind the listener where to find out more about you. So Dave, should we just go back to you and ask you what's one action that SEOs need to better prepare for AI overviews, and just remind the listener where to find out more about you?
Sure. So I'd say it's partly about focusing on being a subject matter expert. While in general results, we're seeing more and more user-generated content, things like Reddit, Quora, and so on. They're not getting pulled in as results very often into AI overviews. It's much more expertise that seem important. So being that subject matter expert on particular areas, building out, a depth of content rather than a width of content would be my advice there. And yeah, people can find out more about me at davetheseo.com and find me on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you, Dave. Sean, what's one actionable takeaway that SEOs need to do to prepare for AI overviews, and where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, well, building on that, I think on top of that, as I mentioned before, how you can add your unique twist to it, your unique stamp on that piece of content, that topic area as well. Like I say, with data and insights and, nice assets that complement it. So yeah, I think that's on top of it. And people can find me at Search with Sean, the YouTube channel. So yeah, head over. Cheers.
Superb. And Victoria, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that structuring your content is really important, and that is heading and phrase like a question and then an answer, which is a sort of encyclopedic answer, like the way that Encarta would quickly summarize an answer. That gave away my age, didn't it? An encyclopedic answer after a heading phrase like a question. FAQs are a great way to do this.
Okay, and where can people find out more about you, Victoria?
Yeah, if you Google me, Victoria Olsina, you will have access to all of my social profiles and website.
See, I was hoping for an SEO or search as part of your domain name as well. We already had Dave the SEO search with Sean, but you broke the pattern there. So, your name's a great domain name, of course, to have.
I do a lot of things, not just SEO.
There we go. That's me told. Thank you so much for joining us, Victoria. Vivek, what are your thoughts on that last particular question?
I think definitely keep track of how you're showing up in all the LLMs, and just tracking everything, looking at your data. That's the most important thing, I would say. And people can find me at, it's my name.net, and also on LinkedIn.
Lovely. And my perspective is that your audio is probably the best it's been today so far. I'm not sure if you've just done something to it, but it certainly seems a bit better. So thank you so much for doing that. Much appreciated. Thank you so much for everyone joining us today. It was a great discussion. We can go on longer. We could have gone on for longer. We're not going to go on for longer today, but perhaps we can have some kind of part 2 about this particular topic. Keep the comments coming in. I've really appreciated you, the viewer, watching live and interacting as well. It makes a world of difference if you can incorporate your questions into what we're actually discussing as well. So if you're listening to this in terms of podcasts afterwards, join us live next time, and hopefully you can be part of next time's discussion. I've been your host, David Bain. You've been listening to the Majestic SEO panel. If you want to join us live next time, then just sign up at majestic.com/webinars. And of course, check out SEOin2025.com as well. Until next time, bye-bye for now.